Welcome to Two Bi Guys. I'm Alex.
And I'm Rob.
And we are Two Bi Guys.
We are. You may not have met or heard much from an openly bisexual man, let alone two of them at once, because bi men are still pretty invisible, but we want to help change that.
That's why we're starting this podcast about fluid sexuality and gender from a bi male perspective.
So here's the quick spiel. I'm 34, I identified as straight, and only dated women for most of my life until about 5 years ago, when I began exploring with men and reevaluating my sexuality. And about 2 years ago, I began the long process of coming out as bisexual.
And I'm 26, and I identified as gay from high school through college, and then realized I'd put myself in a box that kept me from seeing my attractions to women and non-binary folks. I realized very quickly that I was bi and came out all over again.
So while Alex and I both identify as bi, we have extremely different experiences in some ways. So we hope to learn from each other and from other guests and from all of you.
And while we're both comfortable identifying as cis men, conversations about our sexuality have led us to question what role our gender plays in our lives.
In many ways, gender doesn't matter to us that much at all anymore. We realize it doesn't have to mean all the things our society tells us it means, and it no longer defines the types of relationships we can have.
So on this podcast, we're going to break down that binary. We're going to talk about fluidity and about the vast array of ways we experience sexuality and gender.
We're going to talk about the constraints of masculinity and femininity, and the shame and pleasure that comes with exploring outside the box that society puts you in.
As two bi men, we're going to talk about all the labels that can fit in that umbrella. From pan to fluid to queer.
To mostly straight, curious, questioning, heteroflexible,
asexual, demisexual, polyamorous.
And we're going to interview guests with diverse backgrounds and experiences and talk about the intersectionality of race, gender, and sexual orientation. And we're also going to talk about sex. Lots of sex.
The down and dirty, and the intimate and romantic.
And especially the kind of sex that many people don't think really exists, such as sex between straight men.
How can men have sex with other men and identify as straight, you might ask?
I might ask that, but we'll talk about that. The world really needs more bi visibility, bi representation, and bi pride. And while being bi has a ton of challenges, it's actually really awesome and cool and fun.
So to hear about those topics and much, much more, and to hear the perspective of the amazing guests we have lined up, please subscribe here and follow Two Bi Guys on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Our first episode drops on Bi Visibility Day, Monday, September 23rd.
Subscribe now, and we'll see you then.